Welcome one and all to episode 3 of FoxCast. It's the same old crew you know and love. Here with the intro first off is me. My name is Doaks, the indomitable spirit with more abs than you can count. Nuvo Naukai. Say hello, Nuvo.
Nuvo Naukai here.
And the sweetest angelic voice on the entire west coast of the United States of America. Say hello to everybody, Dyna.
Hello.
Yeah, well, you know, I had to give everybody, except for myself, obviously, nice little titles. So, today we're, as we mentioned in the previous episode, going to be covering a spoiler cast of 2 of the biggest movies in the anime medium that have come out in the past year. If you have not seen these 2 movies, or don't want spoilers of any sort, I recommend that you wait to come back and listen to this after you've seen both of them. If you don't care, or you have seen them and you want to share with us, well, get ready for a good listen. We're going to be covering Your Name, or Kimi no Na wa in Japanese, and Koi no Katachi, or in English as we call it, A Silent Voice. And intro is done. So, alright guys, you excited? I'm excited.
Yes!
Prepare yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know after last time,
Oh,
Nuvo
yeah.
was just, he put on his boxing gloves,
I'm
he
ready.
put the war paint on, and he's like, I'm coming for him.
Ready.
I'm coming.
I'm ready.
I'm like on the other side of the country and I can feel like the fiery passion on the other side of the East Coast.
Hearts on fire. So, I guess we'll knock one film at a time. So, we'll start with Your Name, and then we'll proceed to Koi no Katachi. So, I guess the best way is just for all of us to talk about our experiences and loves, or dislikes of either film. So, we're gonna start with Your Name. First off, what was your favorite part of the film, guys? You go first, Nuvo.
Okay, so what I loved about Your Name was the way it opened up. It was very unique. Normally, anime movies don't open up the way Your Name did, and I thought it was
With an actual opening movie, which was amazing.
exactly. So when I see that, I was like, okay, this is new. I'm liking it. I love the song choice too. Anyway, the animation was stunning. The characters, I felt, was real for their age, and I thought that was very important because sometimes in anime films,
Are you telling me like Chad from Bleach doesn't convince you that he's a 15-year-old?
hell no, he don't.
But yeah, it's a prime example of it's just, I don't know, there's plenty of anime out there where you just really don't see honest depictions of the kids at that age.
Yeah, it's very honest and relatable for what they was going through. You could understand on both perspectives, you know? And that really allowed me to ease my way into the film and connect with the ride. I thought the twist was so good, unexpected. I love the ending piece, and overall, I thought the romance was A1.
And if you're unfamiliar with what he means by A1, it means awesome one, or awesome.
Yes.
Because I had him give me that on the down low one time because he calls his significant other that. So I was like, are you talking about the delicious barbecue sauce or something else?
I was just thinking that. I was like, wait, A1?
Okay, so Nuvo, you love the culmination of the film, but what is the one thing in Your Name that really was your absolute favorite thing? Was it a depiction of the kids feeling real, or was there something else that was really your number one favorite thing?
My number one favorite would have to be how the romance was handled. Because if the romance is not handled in a way where I can't personally relate, then it throws me out. Especially with this type of film, when it's like romance based, where you have to care because of the way it's all set. So the romance was the big thing that made me was like, it paid off so well. That's what I really adored about Your Name.
Alright, so the ship sailed nice and clear for you.
Yes.
Alright, so after we got out of the harbor for Nuvo, Dyna, what is the number one thing in this movie that made you go, whoa?
It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what made Your Name so wonderful for me. Like Nuvo mentioned, it's just like a culmination of so many great things, like from the animation to the soundtrack, but also there's aspects of not only romance, but a mystery aspect.
Yes.
And, you know, the anticipation of progression. It's kind of like a journey for these characters, for both Taki and Mitsuha. And in the end, they ended up, you know, meeting to each other. And that's like the ultimate reward. And after basically being so far apart, it's as if they were guided by fate. It's like, I know it's cheesy and all, but it's like the stars that kind of align and they all like stuff like that.
I mean, thematically, they even used the red string of fate. I mean, it's on the nose, but it doesn't need to be more clever than that. It's very obvious and it's out there, and you're supposed to just kind of see what they're doing with it. And I mean, I think that's like them being connected is just it's right there, and it's done well. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is that it's kind of, I don't know, it also relates to me a bit because of the whole long distance relationship thing. I also did go through that. This thing did, in some, well, obviously can't relate it too much because obviously there's some certain aspects, time traveling aspects that obviously I cannot relate to, but the fact that they are so far apart, yet, you know, their feelings for each other are, you know, they're still like intertwined and connected. That's also it's part of its magic as well.
I'm disappointed to find out that your ex-girlfriend of that time wasn't from 3 years in the past, but I guess there's only so much you can do with that.
There's only so much you can do.
So
well,
much.
There's no meteor, so
that's a plus.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, well, there's other things too. But how about you, Doaks? What do you think? Like, what was one thing you liked about it so much?
Well, I mean, I'm staying on the positive Nuvo here, so I'll get to the other stuff later. I will mention, because you know how I said last podcast I didn't like Koi no Katachi. I really liked Your Name.
Here we go.
It wasn't like it's my second favorite of Shinkai's works. I forgot, which I believe I did. Your Name is produced by Comic Waves, which is an in-house studio basically owned by Makoto Shinkai. If you're familiar with Makoto Shinkai, he's made a number of works. I mentioned several of them last time as well. Garden of Words was the one before this one. And he also made very popular, beloved works such as 5 centimeters per second and The Children Who Chase Lost Voices. And the music was done by the Rad Wimps. This movie came out on August 26th last year in Japan.
Yes.
Funny enough, was only 3 weeks before Koi no Katachi, so they came out in really close conjunction with each other. But Your Name, number one thing that really just grabbed my attention throughout this film, and I think strengthened pretty much every aspect of it, was the presentation. The amazing attention to detail that Shinkai always puts forth in every single visual aspect is hard not to appreciate, and the music that bolstered it, accompanied by the Radwim's vocal tracks, it's hard to not just be kind of blown away at times by just how visually and auditorially stunning his work can be.
So for you, you would say it's more of the aesthetic presentation.
Well, see, but I also think the way it looks and sounds, music-wise and voice acting, really it makes scenes that would seem mundane and uninteresting a lot more fascinating. Because there are plenty of scenes through Your Name that are meant to be average, everyday aspects, like the normal montage that they did where they were getting used to each other's daily routines when switching bodies every other day. The way that worked, it's really nothing other than obviously the body switching. They're not doing anything crazy. They're doing everyday normal things, but the presentation makes everything visual, snappy, and the music was super, super fun.
Yeah, in that little section, in that little tiny section of 20-30 seconds of that, basically in that little tiny moment, they just portrayed all the experiences they had in just that tiny moment. And for them to do that, to express that within this, 1.5 hour movie, that little section speaks a whole lot.
Yeah, and I think, it's a classic storytelling element in general in films that he used very well. When you're knowing that your runtime is limited, you sometimes need to find ways to consolidate story in a way that still has a lot of content packed in, and montages that are full of important moments that show that the characters are learning something about the world around them. That's pretty much how you do it. And
I'm absolutely sure that he wanted to add so much more to this, but
yeah, but
I don't know what kind of constraints that his studio had that he may have probably removed whatever from this film.
Who knows? I wonder if the Blu-ray version will have anything extra on it. Okay, so I know overall this film was pretty much enjoyed by all three of us, but we'll go in the same order. What was your least favorite thing about the film? So you're up first, Nuvo. And also for both of these, because we're gonna do this with both movies, nothing is an actual answer if you really think the film is great and perfect the way it is.
Least favorite. I knew you was about to ask me first. That's why I was like, what do I don't like about this film? It's a great film, but I did have kind of an issue with the startup, because when they switched their bodies, it was at a time when they was doing the everyday life thing. I was like, okay, where is this going? But eventually the payoff, like I said, was fantastic. But in that middle ground, when that was going on, I was like, okay, I think they could have, tweaked that little part or slim it down and got straight to the point. But like I said, the payoff was fantastic, because when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, I can understand when that downtime, when he was doing that everyday life, why it was formatted that way. So, but if I had to pick out least favorite, that's probably what I would pick out.
Okay, so you would definitely say the slower part of the films that are used to build up to the more climactic parts didn't always vibe with you the way you would have wanted?
Yeah, if I had to say, yeah.
Okay. And, that'll make you up next, Dyna. What was your least favorite aspect of the film?
I felt that of all of Shinkai's films, this was definitely the most digestible in many aspects. But saying that, if I had to pick out my least favorite part of the movie, is obviously the end. I think the ending was really good for what it is, but I would like to have seen more and seen more of them two together.
Okay, yeah.
Another thing is this overall the concept of the time travel. Time travel is, let's be honest, it's a little bit tricky to work with in general. And the fact that he has all these memories of, flashbacks that he possibly had, 3 years ago, and he doesn't seem to remember it now when he has these dreams and switching bodies with her. So there's like certain points in which I feel like the story could have been more fleshed out and explained more.
For real?
I guess that's the main issue I had with it, but, overall I did understand what they were trying to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But, it wasn't a very fluid path through the time traveling aspect of the story. Unlike other time traveling shows, like, for example, Steins Gate, I felt really did it well and everything just flowed perfectly. Your Name was a little bit on the iffy with the time traveling issue, but I didn't really let that bother my enjoyment of the show.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of those things, when it's a film versus a TV show that has a lot more time to explore upon the idea. As long as they give you at least enough context to make you go, okay, I believe this, the time travel, because again, yeah, I agree with you, Dyna, they could have fleshed out some of those tiny details of why the memories worked the way they did more, but because there was not enough time to do that, because of everything else that had to be crammed into that 2 hours or so of runtime, it's a forgivable sin, is a good way to put it.
Exactly. It's not a huge issue, and honestly, that did not stop me from putting this show in my favorites.
Yeah, I can't really contest that because I agree with you. It's just something that I'm okay putting to the side.
How about you? How about you, Doaks?
I had two things that I didn't like about Your Name, which is why the movie goes from being like great to really good for me. First off is where something that Nuvo really loved, I was not sold on, was the romance.
Oh, here we go. All right, go ahead.
Because while the characters, I feel like, came to know each other's lives very well from the experiences they lived, they never had enough time spent to actually interact with each other for me to have believable chemistry built on a romantic level. Having a deep connection and caring about each other and the lengths that they go for to saving each other, yes. But falling in love, I never saw any part in the film that made me believe that they were romantically really inclined to one another. And the second one is because of how much time they have to cram in to explain the main plot of the story, which ends up being one of the high points of the film. Both Mitsuha and Taki as characters in the second half of the film don't really have any more growth to their character because they don't have any time to grow. For one, Mitsuha's barely in the film in the second half because, well, obvious reasons. And Taki is so focused on what is going on with my life that his character isn't really growing. But I will say, even though I wasn't sold on the romance, one thing I really did like, because they were trying to sell me the romance, was that adorable thing where they're supposed to write each other's names on their hand, and he wrote "I love you." That was brilliant. That was a great, like, it's clever. That was one of the only moments in the movie where I was like, oh, and the very final scene of the film where they finally united. But I believe both of these characters could fall in love. I just didn't have enough time in the film where I believed that they were at that point yet.
Mm-hmm. I totally understand what you mean. Although falling in love, the feeling of emotional attachment is very difficult to gauge.
To explain, yeah.
Especially when everyone has... Again, this might be more of a personal thing, but maybe this is like the whole love at first sight thing. Do you two believe in that?
Oh, okay. See, that's... I can understand why...
I do not. I believe in attraction at first sight, but actual love, I don't believe you can actually develop until you know the person. Now, Mitsuha and Taki did know each other. Let's be honest, but in terms of in real life, I feel like there's an attraction, but until you actually form the bond and try to connect with upon each other, the actual love itself cannot exist, is my view on it.
So you think after a month of two people, for example, let's just say, like an example time period would be like a month or something. So you think that after a month of two people interacting, it's not possible for either one of them to think that potentially the other person is the one for them?
Now, on that, yes, I do, but in their circumstances, they have a lot more things going on, like having to learn and adjust with each other's daily lives. Like, they don't actually talk that much. They text a little bit, but the rest of their days are basically telling the other one how to act properly in certain situations, whether it be at work or with each other's family. So I feel like they would have developed a very deep friendship at that point, and have they got to spend time in real life with each other, which at the end of the film they will definitely get to, and sharing all the experience they did, romance would probably be inevitable. I just, to the point where they were at the film when they were like, I love you, I wasn't personally sold on it, but I will agree that it is possible that he and her could feel those things.
I honestly think that because of the fact that they were swapping bodies, they were able to experience what the other person's life was like, and therefore they would be experiencing things that, normally two people interacting with each other would get to see through time. Because of when they swapped minds and bodies, well, not bodies, but swapping minds, they were able to go in depth of how their personal life and how other people treat them, they could kind of figure out how that person was like. How, in that movie, when the friends, Sayaka and Katsuhiko, they were all making fun of her, saying, wow, I've never seen you act so wild yesterday. You totally weren't yourself. Normally you're so, calm, collected, nice, polite, formal. I feel like those aspects, Taki would have been able to, figure out what kind of person Mitsuha was. Now, I know it's not a direct connection with, each other, because they weren't talking to each other besides, like, writing notes and stuff, but I feel like that, though, their, mind swapping was a good way of figuring out each other's characteristics and qualities.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll agree on those. It's just because, I mean, you do share that part of yourself with very few people, but at the same time, there are friends of the opposite sex that could know you that well as well, who have no romantic implications. So generally, especially in fiction, if you want to make it a better selling point, I prefer to have at least 1 to 2 scenes at minimum to give me a convincing selling point that a romance has begun to blossom, rather than just a very close connection that they're sharing through this supernatural event.
Right. That makes sense.
I understand Captain point, but I think you looked a little bit too deep far as, the love aspect of this film. I think...
Well, when the climax of the film has a big part about I love you, I think the romance is at least semi worth mentioning.
Well, not...
It also kind of... sorry,
you're fine. It's as far as... It's the way you looked at it. Like... I felt like it was natural. It wasn't meant to... I really don't know how to phrase it. To me, it just came off as natural because of the way it was conveyed, because of the body switching. And I felt like, kind of like what Dan explained, but I can't really explain it that well. But they was emotionally connected, so that way they kind of skip the normal steps that you normally will follow in a relationship. And that's why they kind of lean towards love instead of like real fast. That's the way I seen it.
Another thing is that the word love, when you say you love someone, there's no actual spectrum or meter of how deep that love is. Now, I know that saying love is fairly big, but it's also can be fairly casual and for certain people as well. Like, I know, like, around me, I know certain people who just simply, say I love you just so easily and casually the moment they get in a true relationship. But, it's, sometimes it depends.
Yeah, well, in American society, that's very common, but in Japanese society, saying it is actually a very... And Shinkai is somebody who really pays attention to that detail. It's just, for me, I don't think the red string of fate that tied them together needed to be a romantic love. It could have even just been a deep connection of friendship, and I just wasn't ever sold on the love, me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And to each their own on that. And I thought the story was great. I just thought the characters, I wish they would have had more time to grow in the second half, but there was too much content story-wise for them to have that opportunity, it's a personal gripe for me there as well.
Mm-hmm. Character development is a bit hard to attain when you're trying to tell a story and only in 1.5 hours. If it's a slice of life film, probably.
Yeah, it all depends on the context of what kind of story you're telling. And a 3-year time travel, 2 people tied by destiny together, things get a little bit more hectic.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of slice of life, what a segue Dyna just made to our second film of the podcast we wanted to mention. Because he totally did it on purpose. This film is Koi no Katachi, or A Silent Voice. It was made by Kyoto Animation. It released on September 17th of the same year, 2016. It was directed by Naoko Yamada. He is a Kyoto Animation veteran. He directed the series for K-On! And Tamako Market, and the movie add-ons, the K-On! Film and Tamako Love Story. And this is his third directorial film. And the movie was composed musically by Kensuke Ushio. He has not done a lot of music, but one of his big notable ones that he did was Ping Pong the Animation that came back out in 2014, I believe.
Interesting.
Alright, well, this film will probably have even a longer debate on the negatives, so let's start with the positives. Nuvo, what was your favorite part of Koi no Katachi?
My favorite part about this film was how it handled is very touchy but very important themes, far as bullying, suicidal thoughts, how you deal with those suicidal thoughts during an everyday life, how you this film has so much feels. I can try to describe it, but everything just not gonna come to my mind. But I love the themes. I love the characters because they were so real, relatable at spots. The drama I thought was handled well, visually, animation was stunning, and that's about it so far that I can think of.
Okay, so again, you like the majority.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So what was the out of all of those though? What would you pick as the number one thing?
The themes. I love the themes.
Themes. Okay. And for you, Dyna?
I liked it a lot because it was powerful in its presentation of you guys mentioned the themes. It was done very, it was portrayed, I thought, very well, and in certain aspects, I don't say accurate, but I can say accurate at the same time. I thought the animation was gorgeous, and I don't know, in 2 hours, the characters that they had in this film, they were sure, you can apply traits to each single character, but I thought they were portrayed very well, and each character represented a certain quality and characteristic that many of us potentially go through or experience. For example, the one who never takes blame, the one who's always quiet and aside and just allows things to happen. And, I feel like this film represents that very well. And obviously, like Nuvo mentioned, the themes of suicide, social anxiety, bullying, all of that was done very well, I thought.
Yeah, and I mean, I would agree. Especially Ishida and Nishima, they were, as the main lead, stood out as characters with a lot of internal strife that they dealt with. And the depiction of what they go through is almost undebatably very relatable and realistic. Anyone who has experienced either a severe disability themselves or bullying or had suicidal thoughts is going to either like or dislike the relatability of it, because it'll either be something that they find powerfully moving for depicting the ideas, or they will find hard to watch because of, hits home just a little too hard.
Honestly, though, I think if the film hits home hard, I think it did something right.
I mean, I think that's debatable depending on how it makes you feel.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I would agree on that for most pieces of art, because some things, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Spotlight.
Yeah.
It stars Rachel McAdams and Mark Ruffalo and Michael Keaton. It really delves into the giant scandal of the Catholic Church with molestation of young children. And the film ends with a big listing of facts about all the churches that they've discovered and how many people it's happened with. The film isn't meant to inspire you to do anything but be aware of the facts of how much corruption has been out there.
It inspired me, alright.
Not a fun movie, but an important movie. And in terms of my favorite thing in this film, I mean, I'll also agree with one thing Nuvo said, but I'll add an additional one so I don't copy pasta him. The themes are by far the thing I think stands out the most in this film. The anti-bullying message it sends, the topical discussion of the repercussions of what the bullying does, such as making people have severe social anxiety and repressing the classmates around them or suicidal tendencies. But one thing I really, really want to praise the team for is the voice direction. Because not just Nishimiya, but everybody did a really great job with the voice acting, but having the authenticity of having a person speak as if they are deaf and having the subs to match that is something I think wasn't used in an offensive manner, but a very artistically real portrayal that makes people aware how hard it is just to communicate if you are a victim of being disabled, and that we need to be more accommodating. And not only the themes of the movie itself showed this, but I think the actual voice acting supported it.
Yes,
very, very, very well.
Fucking fantastic the way they did that.
Now, Nuvo, you've seen more anime than me, but other than Gangsta and this, have you ever seen another anime actually go out of their way to have a deaf voice acted performance that was very on point like this?
I haven't, really. So, when you said that, I was definitely with you, because I was like, the way they did Best Girl and her, when she speak, was such, it made you feel for her a little bit more. And I just thought, damn, this film is so good. The way they portraying that. The communication.
Also,
yes.
I don't think anybody is going to disagree, but Nishimiya is clearly one of the sweetest anime characters to ever exist.
Yes, she is.
Yes, sweet.
Such a cinnamon roll. Okay, well, this part will be the biggest chunk of the rest of the podcast. I have a lot of contentions for why I if you didn't know, everybody listening, I didn't like this film, but both of them, yeah, of course.
Okay, I might get pissed off.
Bring it. I'll explain my reasons, and at least half of them are clearly debatable. A few of them are personal.
It seems
reasons.
like you have a lot of reasons. How about you name them one by one, and then Nuvo and I will give our responses, and you can kind of respond back to us as well.
Okay, that sounds good. So I tried to consolidate this to just 5, so I didn't take, because I could probably, with anything I don't like, take up a whole podcast worth because I talk a lot.
My body's ready.
So number 5, I think, is clearly the easiest one to debate, and this is just a personal taste thing, by the by. So if you've seen the manga art and Kyoto Animation's art, overall, the character looks very similar, just a little bit different because they have a more cutesy style when they animate versus the more realism approach of the manga. It's just particularly, I don't like Kyoto Animation's body proportions in many scenes when characters have hands that are the size of little gerbils. And yeah, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but especially girls, their hands are 3 times smaller than they're supposed to be to make them look cuter in many scenes. And that always knocks me out of scenes because I'm like, oh, why are they doing that? They look ridiculous. The way most viewers don't notice it or appreciate it is they do it from an angle where the arms are going down, so it looks like a perspective thing, but the hands look way smaller than they're supposed to because big eyes, small, other features is, well, kind of the bread and butter of the animation studio. They started doing this back with probably K-On! Back in 2008 or 9.
Goddamn,
and it's pretty much why they're such a popular company, because they know how to make things look beautiful, and cute stuff sells exceptionally well. Dyna is no exception. He loves cute things.
Heck yeah.
Being the resident cute member of the podcast, and for me, because of this movie focuses on such hard-hitting thematic topics, I wish they would have just stayed with normal proportions that I know they are capable of, as they did in works such as Clanad and Free, and although Free has ridiculous muscles on the men, but that's beside the point. I wish they would have made the characters be proportioned throughout, because I wanted the characters to look as realistic as possible for a story that is trying to talk about something that's a social problem even today.
So I guess what I have to say is that you said that the anime is not like the manga in aspects. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because it is an adaptation of a manga, if people are not aware.
I've actually looked through the manga, and actually I thought they adapted it very accurately to the manga.
Face-wise, yes. It's just that those hands and feet that bother me that Kyoto Annie does.
Has all of Kyoto Annie's work bothered you in that aspect? Or is it because of the disparity of the themes with the cutesy animation?
Yeah, it's the conjunction of both, because I don't mind them having their own style. That's what they're financially successful for. It's just the connection between the two is what breaks it for me.
I see. Does this mean that any contrasting animation style to its themes, like for example the cutesiness of Madoka Magica, turns out to be something else that's much darker? I mean, did you watch the series?
I have watched the series, but that is used as a way to subvert the themes to make the viewer... We're not going to spoil Madoka here, though, if people haven't seen it, but Madoka is a cutie style with dark themes, but it's purposely trying to subvert the tropes of magical girls. So magical girls need to be cute for that to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nothing in this movie needs to be that cutesy for it to deliver, themes of bullying, suicide, and everything else that's included.
You mentioned that they animated their hands and all that really small, but I actually never noticed that. It seems like their hands were in perfect proportion.
Normally this is something you will notice in full body shots only. Mm-hmm. If they are up close, they always proportion it correctly.
I see.
It's something that bothers me always, because it's been a problem. Not a problem, but a tendency that I don't like in their work for the past several years, because I'm not a fan of Moe. But if it's something like Maid Dragon or Kaon, I think it fits for what they're doing. But if it's something like Koi no Katachi, for me there was a split between what I was seeing and what I wanted to feel.
Mm-hmm. And Nuvo, it seemed like you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So I'm just listening. I think I'm trying to fight this as the best I can. I really didn't see any problem with the proportions of the feet, the hand. Maybe I wasn't looking too deep into that, or it just didn't shine as bright. If it was something wrong with those characteristics, I never seen it. So I don't.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I put it at the bottom of my list of problems, because it's obviously even if the film had nothing else wrong with it, it wouldn't have been something that would have bothered me at all as much. But I wanted 5. So
okay, I was like, really? Hands and feet?
As I go down in the list, each one is a bigger reason for issues with the film for me personally.
Okay, because I was like, this is a little nitpicking a little bit. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, I think that's a personal taste in art direction. A lot of people don't care. I do.
Okay. Alright. Yeah, I respect that. Yeah, I respect it. I'm not a huge fan of Moe, so I was like, but it never really.
I'm gonna make you guys subconsciously see that from now on.
I mean, it just never stand out to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. It just never really.
Well, I've brought up this to many people who watch Kyoto animation shows, and most people don't notice it. So even though they do it intentionally, but most people don't mind it or don't care. I obviously an exception to the rule.
Yeah, I'm with you on Keon, but I don't know. I just didn't see it.
Okay, so number 4 and 3 are both related to the fact that this is an adaptation with time constraints. So these are both fine as they are technically in the film, but things I wish I could have gotten out of the movie. So number 4, the ending takes place several chapters before the manga actually ends. So like this is a 62 chapter manga, and ending in the movie takes place around 56 or 57. Now there is like a filler play that doesn't matter in those chapters, but there's also a really important scene for Nishimiya and her coming to terms with what she wants to do for her future, showing that she moved on from her lamenting suicidal thoughts. I wish the film would have had her final part, because they had Ishida's final thing, because that's his real big thing, is dropping all the X's, but they didn't have her final thing, and I really wish they would have put it in there.
I understand. And yeah, I totally would like to have seen that as well, now that you mention it, but this is it seems like this is one of those cases of comparing manga to anime, and I'm the type of person who likes to treat them as two separate works of art. I don't read manga personally, and I probably won't plan to, but I do like to treat them as separate pieces of work. Having already experienced one, format of the work might impede your experience with the other. And I'm assuming you read the manga after the movie, or did you before the movie?
I have not fully read it. I went to go check just a few things after I finished it out of curiosity. This was even before we even did our episode 2 podcast. I was curious to see if the ending was the same, just because I knew the movie was only about 2 hours and it was 62 chapters. So I wanted to see if they at least had the same moment as the ending. And so then I went through like the last 15 or so chapters to find what happened, and just to compare out of curiosity, and knowing that they cover like 95% of the story. I wish they would have just tacked on the last 5.
So basically you're saying that after seeing the chapter length and all that stuff, you had a pre-connotation that something was missing from the movie?
Generally, anytime there's an adaptation for anime of any sort, if I know it's a book or a manga, I look to see when the manga or book was completed, or if it is, and then I want to see when the anime came out. Like, say it's ongoing, I know I'm not going to get a original. Like, if there's an ending, I know it's going to be original of some sort. And if it is already complete, then I'm always curious to see if they adapt the full story or if they chose a different point out of curiosity. Because for me, when I finished the movie, I was like, oh, that's the end? That didn't feel like the end of the movie. I felt like there could have been more. So then I went to go see if there was more, and lo and behold, there actually was a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. This movie was over 2 hours long. So had they adapted that section that you mentioned in the manga, it would have been much longer than that. And I don't know what constraints they had.
Yeah, I would say it would probably been closer to 2:10 if they would have put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit longer, but I would have gladly asked somebody to fund them more to do so. But the reason I looked it up was because I wanted to know, and the same thing with point 3, the ending didn't feel satisfying to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go explore to see if there was a different ending, and there is. Although technically the manga ending to me also wasn't satisfying, because it also ends kind of abruptly. So the ending in general for Kono Katachi I found just kind of open-ended and decent at best.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Damn, you just couldn't win on each end. It's hard to argue this point. I'm just going to take the stance then took, where I just view the source and adapts in its own lane. So it's kind of like when you just said even the source and then didn't really appeal to you, that means kind of the movie did its thing. So I just gotta, that's just like a personal thing. I think personally it ended as best as it could. I mean, I don't even think we really needed those little extra that was left off at the end. I think it was great the way it ended.
Well, and something I was mentioning for this point, I know it goes on to point 3 as well. I think this is just the thing with adaptations. Everybody views the idea of an adaptation differently. I like if it is possible, which in this case it could have been, to have a full adaptation because I like seeing what is there adapted into the same medium instead of it being different, while other people prefer it to be different. I'm one of many people who really doesn't like Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 because I just don't think the artistic differences that they chose to go down fit the thematics of FMA. And I think Brotherhood does a better job. I still think the manga does the best job of telling the story because Brotherhood changes minor details to make pragmatic things for anime, which sometimes you have to do in adaptations. But this was just a small thing I would have wanted to see because I felt unsatisfied with the ending of the film. And going on to point 3, the other thing I was unsatisfied with a lot that I found out was also in the manga, which makes sense because of time constraints. Most of the side characters, Ueno, Kawai, and I actually didn't put his name down, but he's the kid with the red hair who literally does almost nothing in the film. They have more scenes and context that develop their character further, and Ueno even does something that there's one thing the film never did that really made me mad, and I understand it, but nobody ever apologized truly for bullying Ishida or Nishimiya until after it could have been too late. And in the manga, Ueno, even though I hate her character with a passion, actually apologized to Ishida about 2 or 3 chapters after where the movie ended. And she still has problems with Nishimiya, but it was kind of a great character moment to show that more than what they did in the film in the hallway of her coming to terms with her jealousy and anger and why it's a problem. And I wanted there to be some more true endings and messages delivered with the bullying statement at the end, because all I got out of it was don't bully, it's bad. But I would have wanted to see the bullies at least apologize to the people that they treated so poorly.
That makes sense. I think the fact that Ueno learned sign language and showed that she learned sign language and communicated it to Nishimiya in the hallway scene, I think that was the moment where the movie wants you to know that she's accepted Nishimiya more. It's not a full-on apology, I know. Yeah,
and I did like that. I just would have liked, something more outwardly direct. But that's a me thing. Because I know the words exist. I wanted her to say the words because, oh my god, I don't know if I've hated an anime character as much as this girl in a long time.
I think the movie was supposed to make you not like Ueno.
Yeah, no, I think to that end she was supposed to be despised. They at least had a moment of redemption in the end of the manga, and I would have liked to see that for her and Kawai. Mm-hmm. Kawai sort of does it with the cranes, but I would have wanted to see more. But I don't think she actually has anything more in the manga, so I'm not going to ask for any more from her.
I guess, once again, the whole comparison between source material and adaptation.
Yeah, mostly, because one thing I really wanted in the film was a true apology, and I never got it. So, again, out of curiosity, I went to go check if that happened, and I was like, it did. I was like, darn it. There's only 5 chapters they left out. Why was there so much good content that I missed?
Would you say your movie experience was further decreased after reading the manga?
No, because I while those are things I would have liked to see in the movie, I'll never, since I especially read it afterwards, those little parts, I wouldn't make the movie be rated any lower. It's just things like the 4 and 3 in this nitpick things are parts that I wish were put in there. 5 through 3 of my things are things that I personally would have liked them to do, but realistically, that's difficult with time constraints and being an adaptation.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, before we move on to your second point, Nuvo, do you have anything to say?
Oh, yeah. So, I think the film did well with not really allowing them to apologize in a niche type of way. I like the way the film handled the inner jealousy from the character. It came off very real to me, and how people handle jealousy and fight emotions they know that can harm others. And I really like the hallway scene because it was very genuine and not forced.
So what you're saying is you think that the hallway scene was a more accurate representation of how a former bully would sort of quote-unquote apologize to the bullied instead of a full-on, frontal I'm sorry. Like
Exactly. Yeah, because, sometimes anime films, when it deal with, like, bullying or some type of hard drama, they try to go into this niche way or easy going far as apologizing. But in this film, it did it in a realistic type of way. And then it come off fake to me. It came off very genuine. Like I can understand the perspective these characters and feelings they was going about and how and why. And that's why I really like the film, because the character portrayal as far as the feelings towards the drama.
Okay, well, I am going to agree and disagree there. So, for Kawaii, in that context, I 100% agree. But for Ueno, I do not, because there is a point in the film, it's at a bridge scene, probably about 20-25 minutes before that, where all the characters are at, where she outwardly speaks to how you should speak, to how you actually feel. And the fact that she one-on-one talked to Ishida is really in line with her character. She's such a very direct person. She really is kind of abrasively so. And that's why she has that in the in the original source, because it's part of who she is to tackle things head on. For Kawaii and all the other bullies, I agree in your context. It's more real for them to take it in a very subtle, nonchalant way. But for her, I think she's somebody who would directly go for it. Not towards Nishima, but towards Ishida, because they have a different bond with each other.
I still think they handled it like perfect. It's just me. The only character that I was like, I wanted to see some type of resolve. Remember the friend? I can't think of the boy name. What was his name? The one that, when he was younger, they had like that relationship was kind of, that was the only relationship where I was like, damn, that I would like to see that get more resolved. But other than that, I felt like I said, I felt like all the characters was handled very well from the emotional, strain and things that he was dealing with from the inner and shit like that. But other than that, yeah, he was the only character where I was like, I want to see more. I thought that wasn't handled in a realistic way. That's the only character I was like, they didn't resolve. And maybe that was like one of those things where I kind of would want to dive into the source material on that end to see if they kind of emphasize on that character a little bit more, or the relationship with the main character and the little boy. A relationship, did they actually resolve that when they got older? Did they just leave that in air? But other than that,
as far as I know, it's left up in the air, just like in the original source. And I actually like that personally, because it's nice to see that they don't just make every single bully who is there just conveniently part of the story and able to resolve it. It's nice to see that some people who are nasty always stay nasty. That's the way they should be. And I feel like that friend was just a jackass.
Yeah, I mean, I like the part where, I just like overall that he's never, even when they was trying to push that relationship back, and he was just like, no, too much had happened, and I'm a new person now and stuff like. I like that. I like that aspect of it, but I still feel like it should have been like a conversation just for the movie, because in real life, shit went down like that, but just for like the movie aspect, I just really like one conversation, just one conversation. But other than that, I felt like all the characters kind of express themselves in a realistic type of way. That's just me.
Okay. So I'm gonna speed this up so we don't stay here forever. So point 2, I'm gonna see if you guys can guess which moment I'm talking about. But there's this climax scene in the movie that, for a film that does a lot of realism, could not actually happen and is for me, was immersion breaking and doesn't make sense.
Was it the suicide scene?
It was not. That was realistic. It was after that.
I don't know. You know I'm not good with guesses. You're going to have to tell me.
Yeah, when you mentioned climax. That's
Okay.
the climax I can think of.
So I'll explain it from start to finish on why. So I'm talking about the final bridge scene between Ishida and Nishimiya. Now, not the conversation itself. That is fine. It's what leads up to it. So from Nishimiya's side, it's honestly not that bad. She has a dream. She wakes up and she just runs out of her house in a flurry just of emotion to the bridge because that's the first place she thinks of.
You talking about the feeling?
To me, that was fine. It's what happens with Ishida that is completely unrealistic. So he's been in a mini little coma for at least a few weeks at this point. And we know this for a fact from all the time they passed with them waiting outside the hospital. When you are in a coma for a while, your muscles are not as strong when you wake up. But the biggest thing is he just leaves the hospital at the middle of the night with no issues in his hospital garb after waking up from a dream as well. Now, of course, suspension of disbelief, they have the same dream and both want to go to the bridge. But there is literally no way he could have gotten out of that hospital because as soon as you take off that stuff and wake up, when your heartbeat would come back to normal instead of being at a resting space, nurses would be alerted. There would be at least a few on call. If you try to get out before nurses get there, security guards are watching, and an alarm would go off and they would stop you. And also, because of his muscles should be in a weakened state, it would be hard for him to walk and run, however far of a distance the hospital is from where the bridge is located. Now, this is not the only story that is at fault for this, but I always have been like, you can't do that.
I can definitely see the whole escaping the hospital and not notifying any sort of security. I can definitely see that. The whole muscle biology thing, I can kind of forgive it a bit more.
Yeah, me too, because we don't know how long he's asleep, so that's a little bit...
Yeah, it takes a long time for one's muscles to stop.
But I think he would at least be pretty stiff.
I'm just shocked that you even point this out, because I lied to you not. When that scene happened, I wasn't even thinking about none of that shit. I'm just like... I don't know.
That's called emotional manipulation by movies. They make you so invested in what's happening, you throw out reason and are just like, oh my god, they're gonna meet.
Well, it's not that type of film for me to really put the microscope under. So I'm just going by the feels. So I'm not really looking too in depth into every scene. Now, if it's like a psychological film, so of course I'm gonna fucking every scene, frame by frame, every word, I'm just like, I'm dissecting the shit out of it. But for this film, I'm just more captivated by the feels and overall how the themes and everything that's going on is how relatable to me and how that, resonates and shit. So that scene, I'm not really breaking it down in a realistic way, because if we do, there's no fucking way he could have made it to the bridge, coming off the coma like that, if I'm really looking at the scene like that.
That's actually a lot more. I didn't think you would actually pick that moment apart, actually. Sure, I definitely understand how it breaks immersion, but that's actually very in depth of exactly like how you relate exactly to how real life works.
Well, it's a movie that really strives for even the smallest thing. Your Name did this too, for realism approach. So things that broke realism always made me go, okay. You're pushing my suspension of disbelief here now.
Yeah, I mean.
I like to say, sorry, Nuvo, but I'd like to say the whole, how, the whole stiff muscles thing, I think that can all be forgiven because the whole compassion can definitely overpower weak muscles and stuff like that. And while you're in a coma, while you're in a comatose state, you're not completely immobile when you wake up. You can still move. You'll be weak, but I think he was more powered by, like, his own emotions.
The determination and stuff. And I'll give a pass on that one. Because again, I don't know how long he was asleep, and the human body can do a lot of things if adrenaline is running through it.
Yeah. As long as your heart's still beating, your muscles will work just fine.
Sometimes more than they're supposed to.
Yes, exactly. And but yeah, the whole hospital thing, I guess you are definitely right. And But I don't know how the hospital system works in Japan, so I'm trying to use that ignorance per se to apply to here.
Well, I know a lot of it. I know a lot of their medical and law systems are based off of ours, so I would assume it's at least semi-similar. Being friends with several people who are also who work in hospitals has made me a little bit more, and I am also a law major. Certain things like automatically stick out to me.
Now, escaping from a hospital, that is definitely not a new thing, though. Like, that's happened.
No. I've always thought that was and movies have been doing it for at least 40, 50 years now. I've just always thought it's ridiculous.
I see. It can happen.
It can. It's just for a high school kid who's just woken up in the middle of the night, it's unlikely. And my number one reason is one that isn't contendable because it's a personal reason. The film deals with a lot of touchy subjects such as bullying and suicide and self-hate, and I was bullied a lot as a kid. I have had suicidal thoughts, and I struggle with a lot of low self-confidence and problems with my self-esteem. So relating to the characters on that level, I love both Ishida and Nishimiya as characters, but the film was so, and that's part of the film's message, which I appreciate, but it made it very unfun for me to watch.
So it was more that it hit a past core that you wanted to forget.
And some current ones, and sometimes I don't like being reminded of things. It's kind of like, for those viewers who don't know, my father has passed away, so sometimes when stories have things about past fathers, it's something I don't want to see because it upsets me.
Had you read the synopsis to this movie and knew what themes were going to be represented, would you still watch it?
Well, see, it depending on the way it's dealt with, it's always different. Because, like, I know Nuvo's releasing this, and I read it because I prefer the manga adaptation over its anime, because the anime's budget kind of fell out the ass in the second half. Orange is another one that deals with suicide, and I love Orange and its depiction of suicide, and it was something I also related to very heavily. But the way it was depicted was something that, while I cried and was upset by the feels of the storytelling, it wasn't something that made me in a very down mood. While Kimi Katachi doesn't really have many scenes built into its story to uplift you ever, because of how it's mostly very serious all the time. So it really just kept me in a down mood most of the film with its heavy topics.
So it seemed like you went into this movie either knowing that the themes, those dark themes, would be represented and you would gloss over them more. Not gloss over them, but be more accepting of it like Orange, or the film would have not represented it well and you would have disliked it for that aspect. But it sounds to me like no matter what, this film wouldn't have appealed to you in general.
Yeah,
like,
I think
the fact that it represented it well, I mean, it hit you home hard. I think that points to the general direction of the anime.
Yeah, it's something with Kono Katachi, and it's and I don't think there's anything wrong with the film for the way it does it, because I actually applaud the film for its success at delivering the themes. It's just bullying and suicide. Whenever you go into it, if you've experienced them, you're either gonna love it or hate it, even if you don't relate to it. But if you do relate to it, it's either going to be something that makes you go, I understand that, and that's great because I feel the same, or I understand that, and it makes me feel crappy because I remember how that feels right now.
Now, going back to Orange, and I apologize for digging up these, experiences of yours, but you did mention that you were more okay with the representation of suicide in Orange. Is it because you mentioned that it was a TV series and it had lighter tones in other moments that helped lessen the blow? Was that the reason why you liked Orange so much?
No, I think something about Orange's depiction of suicide is just something that I was able to relate to on a level that made me feel happy that I didn't go through with it myself. While Kono Katachi's depiction of suicide reminded me of, like, the moments of where I was feeling it and the self-hate that goes with it, and I didn't get the reprieve of not, like, because Orange also covers the aftermath of being thankful you didn't do it, while Koino Katachi doesn't do that as much. It covers more the overcoming of bullying and social anxiety more than it does its suicidal topics.
So it sounds like Kono Katachi is more relatable to you than Orange. Is that what you're saying? Or is it the opposite?
I think Kono Katachi covers more topics I'm related to, but in terms of suicide specifically, I think Orange does it better. But in terms of bullying and some of the other themes, I think Kono Katachi does it better.
And the fact that it covered so much and so many different of those dark themes, do you think that was the reason why your experience with it was much more dampered than compared to Orange?
I think it might have been. I think the combination of so many different things, like having one thing and focusing on it and being able to like step back and just being like, okay, but having like 4 to 5 different things is it's a lot for a guy who suffers from a mental illness. And that's number one reason I didn't like the film, because it was a personal big reason I did not like the film. Not that it is bad, but I didn't like it. And Nuvo?
Okay, because I was just letting you guys kind of just air it out a little bit. Anyway, so I feel like the film kind of did its job in the sense if it made you if it resonated with your not natural, but constant battle of, of those tendencies, I think the film kind of did its job, because it did. I don't know how to fucking explain this, but
that's something I'm trying to say here is, well, I think it delivered its themes well as well. That doesn't mean I have to enjoy it.
I'm sorry, it's just the way you said it was funny.
I think it's well made, but I don't like it. It wasn't fun for me to watch because of those things.
See, okay, right there. It's just like damn, I can't explain this right now. I'm blaming on the
I'm gonna try to kind of figure out what you're trying to say, Nuvo, but are you saying that it seems like it was a lose-lose situation for Doaks, and it didn't matter whether he didn't watch or did watch it, he would have not liked it in either way?
Yeah, kinda, yeah. I'm gonna lean towards that, because that's just the way it comes off to me. It was like, it hidden. I can't explain it right now. I'm just blaming on AM, but yeah, didn't pretty much cover my argument for this, because I can't really explain nothing right now. I'm sorry.
Well, for me, it's the first 4, a culmination of those personal, like the things in the story I didn't like, that I was either missing or I thought were faults, plus personal things that were clearly just not going to cater to me at all in any way once I, ventured into this film. But, and again, like, it's not something I think is a bad film. There are films that I think people like that are like, okay, but I think this is a well-made film. I just personally am not a fan.
That's totally fine. We all have our different experiences with movies, so that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
It's why we have these debates and all that stuff. But in the end, it's still a film that we all watched.
Yeah, and
sure, we have differing opinions, but we respect each other's opinions.
And like for me personally, like Your Name, I would recommend to pretty much everybody, and Kono Katachi, I would recommend to pretty much everybody. But if you know that films with really heavy topics are hard for you to enjoy, you might want to stray away from it. But if things like the themes that we talked about do identify with you, I think this is a film that might become, like it has for many people, very special to them.
I feel that Kono Katachi a lot of people will find that more relatable than Your Name, just because of the themes and those aspects.
Yeah, Kono Katachi is a much more, something we all deal with, even today on a day-to-day basis, while Your Name is kind of more like that blockbuster movie that everybody can get behind type of thing. Mm-hmm. And they both have their merits for what they are. And I mean, I enjoyed giving my points and you guys contending them, because it did, for part of my things I was complaining about, let me see it in a different light. Doesn't change the fact that I think Your Name is a very good film, and I don't like Kono Katachi, but it makes me appreciate it more, at least.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We definitely now see more perspective of, someone who didn't enjoy it as much as us, who probably viewed it from a more personal level, and we kind of see it from that more too. So I think Nuvo and I are definitely more understanding now.
Yeah, I promised I didn't have bullshit reasons. There were real reasons there. I just I needed the time to hash them out, and also I enjoyed the approach Dyna did to. They're basically non-judgmental questions, just to understand more where I was coming from.
Why'd you hate it? Why'd you hate it? Interrogation style, all right. I'm just kidding.
It's fine. I've taken many law classes where I've been put on the stand, and I always win. But yeah, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with these two films?
So I guess overall, after talking about these two films, overall, what do you think? What was out of these two? Which one do you like more? I know your answer already, technically, Daniel, but which one of these two films do you like more?
Your Name, of course. But funny enough, depending on who the person is, I would recommend either or, because if I know somebody personally who I think would appeal to really down-to-earth, relatable themes, Koi no Katachi is what I would like to. But if you're just looking for a good anime film to share with anybody, even your parents, Your Name is definitely the film to share with somebody. And you, Nuvo, which one is your favorite of these two?
I think, even though I love A Silent Voice, it's a hard film to rewatch. So I would have to pick Your Name. Overall, Your Name. I just like its ending is such a memorable ending to me because of the way it paid off. So Your Name is my pick.
Alrighty, and for me, I would also pick Your Name. Like, when I finished Koi no Katachi, I thought I liked Koi no Katachi more than Your Name because of how much it made me feel. But then again, like, after a bit of time for the movie to settle in, I figured that, Your Name was definitely the overall more digestible and compelling film to me. But both are very, very good movies.
Yeah, I think Koi no Katachi covers more important topics, so I think in the long run it's a more important film, but Your Name's a more universal film.
Mm-hmm. And it shows in the box office.
Yeah, it's the worldwide greatest anime film, so props to you, Your Name. Shinkai, I know you're displeased I didn't have everything you wanted, but you're doing well, buddy.
I know this is going to create lots of pressure for Shinkai's next film, but it's good to have a film like Your Name in your legacy.
Yeah, just keep it up. Just do what Miyazaki did and just make what you love, and it'll show. All right, well, if that covers both of these movies, all that's left for this podcast, and it did run longer than I anticipated, but this was a really good SpoilerCast, are the recommendations. So recommendations this week are brought to you by, well, me. The anime recommendation I'm going to give, I figured we're talking about movies. Why not recommend a movie? I'm going to recommend Millennium Actress by Satoshi Kon.
Nice!
Now, the reason I recommend this specifically is we're talking a lot today about movie making and the differences of it. Millennium Actress is probably the one anime film that I've seen, and it shows in most of Kon's work his love and adoration for filmmaking. It is about a woman who is in her late 70s or 80s who's being interviewed by these two guys who are trying to make a biographical film on her. And she was a famous actress, and they're covering her life told from her point of view in her 70s. And due to her being in an advanced age, when she tells her stories, because of her entire life, she was pretty much pursuing this one man that she met when she was very young. Where she was living and what movies she was shooting are a blur to her, so it is up to the viewer to make the distinction between when it's about her movie career and when it's about her real life. And a lot of the types of techniques used in the film are used from many, many classic films that have been made over the past 100 years. So if you love movies and you especially appreciate something with a lot of clever direction and with a huge punch to the gut of being sad that one of the greatest anime directors who passed away early can't make any more films, this is the movie for you. It's great. It's very realistically animated and just brilliantly directed throughout.
Maybe I should take that recommendation myself, because I haven't seen Millennium Actress, or actually, I haven't seen any of Satoshi Kon's movies, I think, so I should probably take that recommendation myself and go watch it too.
Yeah, and the only one I haven't seen of his is Perfect Blue, but Dyna, I recommend for Christmas time. go watch Tokyo Godfathers. It's a great Christmas time film.
I look forward to that.
It's like a spin on the Three Wise Men, but with homeless people.
Interesting.
And then this other film is Paprika, which is by the same novelist who wrote Kiki's Delivery Service, but that was or not Kiki's Delivery Service, who wrote The Girl Who Left Her Time.
I have watched Paprika actually, and it reminded me of the movie Inception, and I loved both of those films.
Funny enough, Inception was inspired by Paprika, so it's cool to see that a live action film that did very well was inspired by anime.
It's wonderful.
Yes, Paprika is one of his 4 films. So if you liked Paprika, same creator, and lots of brilliant direction. So I expect you to have seen it by next podcast.
I'll try.
And the Kitsu user recommendation of the week, I am going to give it to Gribo. He is a longtime user of the site. He is a chappy Brit who is pretty much one of the most sociable guys on the site. He was able to talk about anything from Harry Potter to Terry Pratchett to, well, anime. He's a fun guy. He's somebody who, no matter what you're talking about, he can make the effort to just be a friendly person.
Go say hi to him.
Go check him out. Tell him we sent you. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up, guys?
That's it.
That's it.
Well, from the FoxCast podcast, we thank you all, guys, for listening to this, what happened to be an extra long discussion on Your Name and Koi no Katachi, and we can't wait for you guys to give us feedback, as always, on all our different social medias that we post this on. Be sure to go watch the recommendation and go follow the user if you're a Kitsu user yourself. And until then, have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Doaks.
I'm Dyna.
Nuvo no kai.
And we shall see you next time, guys. Love you.
Bye-bye.